Hello YouTube, welcome to our presentation on SOLAS VGM, facilitating an ecosystem. So basically, to introduce the parties of the presentation, my name is Jody Cleworth and I am from a company called Marine Transport. We're a new startup company promoting technology within the shipping industry. And the product that we're going to show you today about is basically we've partnered with a company called Black Swan, and I'll let Jonathan Langley now give a short introduction to Black Swan before we move forward.
Hi, it's John Langley speaking. So, in conjunction with Marine Transport International, we have come up with a technology solution for the SOLAS VGM application. And Black Swan is a technology provider. We work with multiple different international organizations, building data platforms and other service delivery platforms for those particular clients. And we're quite keen to get involved in SOLAS.
Thanks, Connor. So moving on, what is SOLAS? Our cloud here currently depicts the regulation, which we should all be very well aware of, considering the date and time that this video will be uploaded onto YouTube. So we are focusing inherently on the safety of life at sea convention, which surrounds the submission of the verified gross mass. And basically, that is the current safety issue that we are looking at in regards to regulation, and what this presentation and surrounding software applications will be focused on. So what is VGM? Basically, the verified gross mass of a container is created by weighing all the contents in the container separately and adding a tare weight, which would be method 1, or weighing the net weight of the goods inside the container added to the tare weight, which would be ultimately from a weighbridge, and that would be method 2. When will this be enforceable? It will be enforceable from the 1st of July 2016, with containers pretty much starting to gate in from the last week of July, being applicable to having VGM submitted to the carrier. The key here is that without a VGM, the cargo is not going to be loaded on board the vessel, and it's all about this presentation, and the software is down to that VGM journey of getting the information as soon as possible into the terminal stroke carrier. And as we see it, this can only be solved by technology. And the last couple of months, we have been focused on developing a suitable product, which we will have ready before the 1st of July. So one of the main challenges of the convention is that the Coast Guard has been charged as the necessary regulatory authority within the various signatory countries. And in each country, as the VGM information has been processed and we've moved closer to the deadline, there's been a lot of disparity between what countries are doing, and even so much within those countries, various geographical differentiations have taken place with what ports are doing, and even within those local geographies, ports/terminals within those geographies have taken a different approach on how to submit a VGM, what services will be offered by those specific ports, and what type of schedule of charges will be looked at, and the process surrounding the milestone management of those ports. So it's all about having a defined process that we see within the market for our customers, which are inherently the shippers, and it's how we're going to go around facilitating the ecosystem, which is looking at all the people of the landside supply chain, to make sure that these parties interact with each other in a fluid manner in order to supply the VGM to the terminal at the right point in time. So what we envisage of doing in terms of the administration of the VGM is looking at getting the VGM to the terminal before the container actually arrives in the terminal on a holistic basis. So in any event where there's multiple time zones, where there's multiple parties interacting with the VGM information, and even if those parties are a third-party organization, we can provide that information to the shipper through our ecosystem and allow them to submit that information to the port within a timely manner. And ultimately, the shipper is responsible. Any associated costs are going to be coming back to the shipper due to VGM malpractice. But through the presentation today, we'll show you how we can facilitate a seamless end-to-end solution focused specifically on the journey of the VGM. So looking at the software and the ecosystem that we inherently create, we are able to take information which is created by the booker, and the booking party in this situation can be the freight forwarder, NVOCC, and the shipper themselves, and interact with information that's being created at the source of measurement of the container, and that instances are particularly controlled or closely referenced to interactions with the driver and the supplier of the cargo. Now, this solution that we've come up with is completely generic. It's applicable to many segments within the container export market, and even it's applicable to both method 1 and method 2 suppliers. But ultimately, it's a technological approach to solving the VGM solution. So at that point, in terms of getting the container weighed, the information is already being created, albeit in the current process today, it's a very tedious approach to high volume shippers of getting this information from the weighbridge into their systems and through to carriers in order to be VGM compliant. Now, the word ecosystem will allow allow any party within the supply chain to upload the relevant information. And we do that via a few methods of technology. And one of those would be through iPhone and Google apps, and then a web-based system, which would be more particular for office-based staff, where the web application can be based on remote weigh bridges or the driver of the container uploading the information. So we allow this information, which is basically the Vermis code, which has been created to suit the specific legislation, to be gathered, and then that data to be accelerated into the carriers and then pushed into the terminals, which, if working within the realms of the ecosystem, will allow VGMs to be propagated within the terminal before the container arrives. And as we can see it globally, this will be the cheapest day out and the most compliant way in order to provide information to the relevant carrier terminal that the containers will be loaded through. So it's about data acceleration, it's about data accuracy, it's about facilitating that ecosystem and using all technology available to us in the current market today to facilitate a problem which is quite easily solved with the use of technology. So a little bit more about how we facilitate the ecosystem. It's quite a new approach to software, or you could say collaboration within the market today. The software, although requested and created on behalf of marine transport, is actually a neutral platform, which we envisage that load points, drivers, freight forwarders, and other NVOCCs can actually integrate into the system, register, and take part in solving the VGM problem for all of our clients. So it's not that you need to do a specific agreement with a specific freight forwarder or a specific carrier. This software will allow you to go to directly transmit VGMs from the source or through collaboration with your load points, suppliers, and truckers directly to the carriers, which would mean you could do business with multiple freight forwarders and multiple shipping lines and not have to worry about changing your process each and every time you submit a VGM based on a rate or a current agreement that you have. So it's all about collaboration and allowing people to interact with each other transparently and openly. And in terms of compliance, there's not really any secret information we're sharing here because it's just container weights, tier weights, and booking numbers that are being pushed between the system. So ultimately, we have a standardized solution, a transparent solution, and ultimately, from the way that we see it, the lowest cost solution in terms of transmitting this information throughout your supply chain. And it's as simple as weigh the container, weigh the goods in the container, upload your information onto the platform or via the mobile web, and inform your parties within the ecosystem. And that ultimately means the VGM reaching the port, you staying compliant, the health and safety regulations through the SOLAS regulation being met, and everybody staying happy pre and post the 1st of July. So in terms of the software and our partners, you know, it allows everybody to submit the VGM. It allows a seamless flow of information between parties. And once again, it's neutral. There's a few features that we can discuss before we get onto the demonstration, which John will show you. However, we plan on having it as a multilingual based user language on the mobile app and on the desktop, simply to facilitate all the signatories of the SOLAS regulation. It basically provides access to your supply chain partners to facilitate this information. And you at the same time too, with the mobile and web application, you can upload documents into the system, which would be, you know, weighbridge tickets for auditing purposes, collection notes, photos of the back doors of the container to gather the tier weight, photos of the commodity to push to your for your simple auditing records, and any other associated documents that may be required from your load point. But it will record the VGM creation party. We do work on business roles associated to the submission, verification, approval, and onward forwarding of that information to the carrier. And currently, as mentioned before, we are working with the Verimas language through EDI. We are partners of Inttra in the solution. So we go to Inttra carriers, albeit we also are able to offer the balance of carriers, which we would see as the majority of carriers in the market, also through direct EDI connection. So it's about technology. The only way that we see this technology working is through the collaboration of the ecosystem. And the more and more that we've got into detail of what we've actually got to offer, it's quite evident that the mobile application is very thought of in the market of solving situations where offices aren't open during business hours to supply VGMs to no VGM, no load ports, or provide VGMs to ports where you have the information, but if you gate in, you will get charged. So a gate in and weigh charge scenario, we have that information. Why not provide it in a timely manner to the port and reduce costs associated between parties on the VGM compliance aspect? We are prepared to connect into shippers' own systems, Internet of Things such as weighing equipment. We've had various discussions on connecting into cranes and mobile cranes around the world to transmit this information via mobile technology. And similarly, we offer any other connections that may be pertinent to the VGM process. We will have a roadmap ahead of us where we will have specific products which we will discuss at the end of the call to facilitate more of a development. So to be clear, this is not about here is the final solution that you're going to see in front of you. It's going to be like any web-based product. the more we update the app, the more feature releases we have, the more we integrate, the wider the ecosystem will spread. And like we mentioned, it's free for anybody to use in terms of signing up. We offer various commercial deals, and we encourage you to get hold of us, and we will share our contact details at the end of the call. But just to move forward a bit more on the services that we provide, it'll be all based on Android, Apple, and on web platforms. So we have a very flexible approach to what platforms you can use and download the apps on. We will have a 24/7-hour backup call desk based on troubleshooting VGM situations. As we know, there's a difference between being a data facilitator and then a software solution provider, and that's more how we see ourselves as a solution provider, consultancy based on making this work for you and looking at the lowest possible cost solution in terms of delivering the VGM effectively to the port. So in terms of a little bit more about Black Swan, currently providing blue chip software to a lot of companies around the world. A lot of this work has been done in the supply chain spaces. So with the innovative and successful solutions Black Swan have come up with, we're sure we've picked the right partner here in terms of developing more innovations within the container industry. And no doubt we see SOLAS VGM and the milestone or the event of SOLAS within the container business industry to be a major point of digitalization. And as marine transport and Black Swan, we will definitely be announcing further products in the future. But I think at this moment in time, we've given you probably enough information to understand where we are heading and what we are doing. And I'd like to hand over to Jonathan Langley from Black Swan now to have a look at to guide you through the software to see how it would work in the various ecosystems between each other. So, Jono, over to you.
Great. Thanks very much, Jody. Right. Hello, everybody. Okay, so as Jody was just busy explaining to you, what we've tried to do with the software is actually create an ecosystem that allows the various different people within the supply chain to interact very securely together to ensure that we keep data segregation between all the parties involved. So, for example, not giving away any information to the different parties that they don't need to be aware of, which just means that as part of your supply chain, you can have a supplier that's working with multiple different shippers, and likely and transversely, if we have got a supplier working with multiple different trucking companies, for example, they can all use the system in a safe and secure way. So what I'm going to take you through today is the process of how a shipping company will sign up and log into the system, show you a little bit about how they as a shipper would interact with the system. And then during that process, I will show you how a load point, as an example, as another person in the supply chain would interact with the system and submit VGMs for that particular shipper. So when you come to the application, as Jody's already mentioned, we've got a web application, which is the web portal that you see now in front of you. And we've also got the mobile applications, which is either accessible on the mobile web or on the iPhone and Android platforms. So we're going to log in now on the mobile web. On the desktop. Right, and the first thing we get presented with is a dashboard. So we currently have a list of items that are available to you. So it's got my containers and my bookings. And as you can see at the moment, this is a fresh account, so we don't have any information currently assigned to either. Now, as you can see down the left-hand side, we have various different options, which can take you directly to all the bookings within your account. We'll click on that. Currently, we've got no bookings, no pending verifications, and containers. I will go into more detail as we go through each of the screens. I'll just give you a quick overview. Go into containers. Similarly, you'll see a similar view where you can see currently pending containers, or if you want to search, you can search for previous containers that were submitted for VGM. And then the last thing on the list is organizations. So this is a dashboard that allows you to manage your organization or the users that are using the system. And so you can invite new people into the system. You can do things like associate addresses to your account. And you can administer roles and responsibilities for your users within the system. So if you, for example, you wanted to have an administrator that is only allowed to create new bookings, for example, but they aren't allowed to verify the container submissions for VGM, then you could come in here and create a new role based on those permissions specific for those users. If we go to invitations, we could invite new users. So you can either upload a CSV file with a list of all the addresses of the users that you would like to invite to the system, or you can enter them manually. So we could do joe.soap@gmail.com, add them to the list, and then associate the roles. So at the moment, we've only got the owner role, but as I previously said, we could add as many different user type of roles that we want, and you can tailor the system to exactly how you want your users to interact with it. Right, so going back to the dashboard, I'm just going to explain a little bit more about my containers and my bookings. So the way that we link everything up is through the different organizations and entities that are working as part of your ecosystem. We use the carrier reference numbers and the carrier as a unique reference number so that we can tie up different transactions within the system. Now, what that means for the shipper is that when they want to make their particular shipment available to accept VGM containers, they will have to go in and add a new booking, which they can either do from the screen over here, or they can go to the booking section and click on either add booking here or add booking. So I'm just going to quickly enter some booking information. Now, when we talk about booking in relation to SOLAS VGM, there's only 4 fields that we actually require for a particular booking, and this is to cut down on doing duplicate data capture for a lot of companies. Also, there's not very many fields that are actually required by the carriers for a VGM submission. So we try and keep these as simple as possible for those reasons. Right, so I'm going to enter a new booking, and I'm just going to have a shipment reference like that, and then carrier reference. So this is the carrier reference from your booking, and this is the one that you will actually receive from the carrier. Another part of the regulation is that you, as a shipper, you need to submit an address to associate that particular booking to, which means that when we submit the VGMs to the carriers, they actually know who's responsible for that particular VGM submission. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new address to associate. So I'm just going to say head office, and we can just go through quickly. enter a few fields here. Country, United Kingdom, contact person. So this is the contact person that will receive any notifications that when a container a container submitted by the supplier or the trucker, they will be the person that actually gets a notification to say that there's an action to perform within the system. So let's just put it as Joe Soap. We put a number. And we'll put the email address, and the email address we shall use just so that we get the notifications. SOLAS VGM and shipper, the shipper, sorry, the shipper address. And we'll just put that this is actually the head office. Right, so we save that information. We can now select it from the drop-down box. And that information only ever needs to be added once, because the next time you come in to add a new booking, that address will be on the list. If you would like to associate the booking to another party, you can go ahead and enter some other information, and enter a new address there. So we save that. Okay, great. So now we actually have a booking within our system, and if we expand that list, we can see that we've currently got no containers associated to the booking. So that's fine, because we've now provisioned it so that if we give this carrier reference number to our supplier or the load point or the trucking company, they can then use that to associate the container submitted for VGM into your system. So at this point, what I'm going to do is cut across to the mobile application so that we can take you through the steps that either the load point or a trucking company would perform. So just a quick background on what this is. This is a simulation of the iPhone app, and this is just because I can't obviously show you directly the phone in my hand as I'm trying to do this. So it's a simulation, but this is what it would look like. And as you can see, it looks like and behaves like a normal Apple phone. So you can see on our dashboard over here, we have the SOLAS VGM app. So I can click on that. And we can see I get presented with a login screen. And so that login screen, we could go through the create accounts process. I'm not going to show you that for now. I'm just going to put in another address over here. So enter the password. Okay. And we can then sign in. Oh, that was the wrong. Oh, okay. Well, I think that's a different account. So I'll re-register another account on here. So what we've got is we're a third-party tracker or load point. So we'll select that. The company name. So we'll just say loader 2 country. Scroll down to United Kingdom. Bit more difficult using a mouse. I'll tell you what. Let's choose South Africa. Right. So we put the first name is Loader, and put his last name is Soap, and the email address we're going to put in here. is SOLAS VGM 1 is sorry, 2 at gmail.com. His phone number +2734 123. Right, and it's a password over here for him. Right, and there we go. So this user's now received a registration email. So click here to go back to the login. And at this point, I'm just going to go and check my email. So, right, there we go. So we've received a notification from the system and it says, hello, welcome to the system. And I can just click on the accept invitation. Right, so that's now confirmed our registration for the mobile app. So I click there back to log on. But what I'm going to do is, this is in the mobile web, I'm just going to jump back into the application. So I hit the home button. I'm going to go back in here and then log in using the app. To gmail.com. And I'm just going to check that box to keep me signed. Right, so now that we actually logged into the system, we can see, we get a very similar dashboard as to the shipping company. It tells me how many bookings, how many pending containers, information about our organization. And again, it says that I've got no containers. So if this was the load point and they are standing at the weighbridge, let's say the weighbridge that just printed out the ticket, I know the carrier that it's assigned to, and I know the carrier reference number. So what I can now do is go in here and click on add container. So the first step in the process for adding a container for the load point is they need to select the carrier. So we'll select Maersk Line. And then we're going to use the carrier reference number that we used for the shipping company that will be on the documentation for the for the driver or the load point. So we click on search. Right, so it's come up with the booking. And you can see there we've entered the carrier, the reference number, and the shipper reference. So now we can tie that against any documentation that we might have. This might be the shipper's load point reference number that is used to identify that particular shipment. Or it might be a invoice number or whatever reference number the shipping company or the booking party has used. So the next thing that the load point will do is select the container type, and they will enter a container number. So there's a particular format of container numbers that is allowed by the system, and that's aligned with the regulations. Right, so the next thing they get asked for is if they're going to specify weights in kgs or pounds. And then they enter the tile weight of the container, which is information that they will have on either on the weighbridge ticket or they will look on the container itself. So we enter net weight. And as you can see here, if I enter the incorrect amount, if I enter too many zeros, for example, it'll come up with a message to say that I've entered a weight outside of the bounds. And so we've currently set it at 40 tons for the net weight. And I believe it's 5 tons for the fair weight. Right. And then there's two other pieces of information that are not required by the system, but if you want your load point to enter them, you can ask them to put the seal number on there. So but they aren't required fields. And if there's a specific load point reference for this particular container load, they could put that in there as well. But again, they're not required by the VERMIS regulation, so you don't have to use them. Okay, so that's all the information that's required for a particular submission. So we're going to create it at that point. As you can see over here, as we're going along, it builds up the information for you, and it's very easy for them to see exactly what they've entered. At this point, it asks us if we want to upload photos. So what this allows you to do is either at the load point, they could take a photo of the weighbridge ticket, or they could take a photo of the container itself. So that might be something that a shipping company would want you to do. So you might take photos of the goods inside before the container gets locked. You take a photo of the seal. You take a photo of the tar weights, etc. Any information on the container. You don't have to, they're not required, but if that's what you want to do as part of your process, then you have the ability to store that information against your container. It also allows you, not on the simulated version, but if I click on upload photos, it allows me to either choose a photo from my photo library that's already on the device, or if it's actually on a mobile phone, you get another option here, which is take a photo from your camera. So you can actually do it in-app, take a photo, and upload it directly. As this is a simulated environment, it doesn't have that option. So I'm just going to go through and add a lovely standard waterfall. Right, so you get a little progress bar as it's busy uploading the photo. 1.8 megs long. But as you can see, there we go. That photo is now being uploaded. So the next step is we click on review. We can now see we've got that document, all the tear weight, and now it gives us the option to submit. So at this point, what will happen is when we click submit, it is going to send a notification to the booking party or the shipping company and tell them that there's a new container that has been entered, and can you please verify the information that was submitted by the load point. So click on submit. And there we go. So container has been submitted successfully. Please note that the container is pending approval. And if we close that, we will now see on our dashboard that we currently have one submitted container, which means it's a pending container. And if we go over here to the containers section, we can see that we've got this one submitted container. So what I'm going to do now is jump across back to the shipper. Right, so now we're back on the shipper's system, and you can see the company over here. We ship. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and now what we'll see. Okay, we've got no containers because there's no for us. We've got no pending verification. But if we look over here and we see under the booking section, we can now see that we've got a booking and we've got one container. So if we open that, we can actually see that we have that container that was submitted by the load point. So we can either go directly here to see that information directly here. If we open that up, it'll give us the option to view it. And so we can now see all the information. If we want to see the image, so let's say they uploaded the weighbridge ticket, it gives you the opportunity to have a look at that. You can then look at that image, or it might be a document or whatever it might be. And then you get the option to verify or decline that particular submission. So just before we move on, I just want to show you that inside here, when the when the load point submitted that VGM, we also got an email notification to say, hey, by the way, there's a new container that needs submission. So, and then you can click on that link as well to take you directly there. Or if you're already in the app, you'll get notified inside the app. Right. So we can then click verify. That container's been verified successfully. So at that point, the system actually will submit that to the carrier as part of its official VGM, and it will sign it based on whoever the currently logged in user. It will say that that user has authorized the VGM for that particular container. We close that. We now see that for this particular booking, we don't have any more containers. If we go to previous, we can see that there's a container here and it's been verified, which is great news. I'm just going to jump back to the load point again. So for them, if they go back to their dashboard, they will see now that there's no pending containers, and it says that they're all good. So if we just jump over to the email, I'll show you. So if we then, there we go. So they will then get a notification as well to say that the VGM has been accepted and verified. Give you the information again, and it says that you can now proceed to the terminal. So they can tell if it's a load point, they can then tell the truck driver that they're good to go to the terminal and drop off that particular container. So that is the overview of the system, which I'm going to now pass you back over to Jody just to wrap up the call. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Jono. So holistically, you can see how we make the ecosystem work, how we facilitate information between different parties, and whether you're a trucking company perhaps using the app or a supplier using the web version in conjunction with the app, with people loading in your yard, creating containers, creating drafts, and having people throughout that process add to those containers, we're able to create VGM and information earlier on in the loading process. So it's got a multiple ability in terms of being pragmatic to our supply chains, where we focus the system on initially in the US, where there's ports of no VGM, no load. In the West Coast, you can basically have your tracker monitoring VGMs being uploaded into the system via the app, through allowing access to their drivers, who then push the information onto you to verify and ultimately submit to the shipping lines. To get those containers in and out of the terminal faster and not allowing for any backups, or perhaps whether you're on the East Coast in the US and you look at a container terminal such as PNCT, and you're loading within the New York, New Jersey region, and you've got 30 minutes to get to the terminal, you can have drivers submitting VGMs on your behalf, the same as suppliers, or whether you're just a shipper uploading information which you've been passed on to by your relevant weighing authorities or supplier directly to the terminals. You've got a holistic way to manage, to have a record of what data has been uploaded into the system, and ultimately push that data to the terminal faster than any current method that we see available in the market today. Now, looking at this development that's gone on with VGM, it's ever changing. it's different per region. And like I mentioned with the US, I'd just like to add a short side note. If you're here in the UK where the technology is being developed, the cheapest day out and the best day out for you, where we have terminals charging for VGM administration and weighing facilities, is that you register with Destinate and CNS, which are the systems here in the UK that manage the invoicing and billing for the ports regarding the VGM system. And if you take our system and combine that with having a badge code with those terminals, you're probably looking at a less than a $2 cost in order to get your containers compliant and onboard the vessels, with not having to pay any other associated fees, which are attributed to either not sending a VGM post Gaten or sending the VGM, or not sending the VGM at all, where you then are applicable to weighing fees. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been demoing the system. We've had quite a lot of uptake, hence the YouTube upload. And at the same time, we've received some very important feedback, which will obviously continue to promote development of the product. And like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, it's all about having that feature add-on as a normal app is generated throughout any of the Apple or Google Play stores. And some of the current features that we're looking at the moment is we actually have an opportunity in the next couple of months to update and auto-populate for the tear weight based on the container, which will then give a sanity check that the correct information has been entered into the systems. If you look at bulk uploading, if you've loaded 30, 40 containers and you don't want to enter each one, we'll have a bulk upload based on how you update that through a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet with the relevant columns according to the BERMAS code. Something down the lane will also be OCR recognition for cameras, so picking up the container and tear weights off the back of the containers and all the various particulars associated to that. And one point which we think will be quite a great add-on is that any booking that you have placed with the shipping line that has the shipper as the nominated person as the shipper registered on file with the carrier, will be able to have the system auto-populated with the surrounding requirements for SOLAS within the system. So inherently, it'll be a much more intuitive, less click system, which we will get to obviously in time. Another point that we can do, and we can do that from the word get-go, is add business rules associated to your VGM submissions. We would welcome any discussions on how to make that easier amongst your supply chain, for example, trusted parties, power of attorneys between those parties, and basically getting that submission done faster outside of business hours or different time zones. And I think if you look at the way that Jono updated that demo, we could even allow access to suppliers where the shipper is in a foreign country, a different time zone, such as the example where you could be a US-based supplier or freight forwarder, and your shipper is in, say, Singapore or Dubai. They've bought some cargo from you. They ultimately need to be the verification party on the VERMAS message, and basically we could create a procedure where those VGMs are automatically verified by the shipper in terms of making sure that best practice is always performed within looking at this new legislation, and that's getting the VGM to the terminal before the container arrives. So what we'll do is we'll share our contact details in the comment section below on YouTube. We welcome anybody to get in contact with us. Share the video with your supply chain parties, various freight forwarders. We welcome them into the fold, trucking companies, anybody who's going to benefit from using a platform like this. And what we've seen from the demonstrations is that there's ideas based on the handheld technology that we've created along with the web platform that we haven't even thought of yet, and scenarios that are going to make data more accessible and more streamlined into the shippers and terminals. And we welcome discussion with anybody in terms of connectivity, whether it's through API into your systems, into your machinery, or carriers looking to have a diversified product. We're open to doing business, and I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you for watching the video, and best of luck to us all for the 1st of July, and let it be easy for us all. Thank you.